Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life with best-selling author and coach Kathy Williams, a show to help you tap into the support of the universe and access the abundance that's available in every area of your life. Listen in for conversations and tools to create more ease, joy, and possibility with family, relationships, business, and living. Kathy's joyful perspective will help you tap into your own wisdom and create a life of presence and abundance your way. Listen live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, or anytime on iTunes or at IOM-FM.
Welcome to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and I'm delighted you're here. We're going to talk today about staying calm when the world around you is not, which may be the case right now for a lot of people. I know it's definitely something that I've been playing with actually for years. So when a world pandemic or mass chaos breaks out, I have rehearsed over and over, so it's not such a big deal. And you'll find that the more you tap into the spaciousness of your own being, which is not foreign to you, you're going to find more ease and calm every day, regardless of what's going on. And that doesn't mean I don't get knocked off. It doesn't mean you won't get knocked off, but it does mean that you'll bounce back a lot quicker. Kind of like one of those, I was growing up in the 80s, so we had these little plastic blow-up dolls that you would punch, and then it would kind of like return back to its center. And that's what we're after, right? It's not that you have to remain in your center all the time, but every time you get knocked off, you just find your way back that much more quickly. And that's what today's show is about. So, and I'm going to tie that to abundance too, because when you're functioning from presence, when you're functioning from the spaciousness of your own being, you're more tapped into your own wisdom than you're tapped into the drama. And so you find solutions. When you're in the drama mind, you're problem-oriented. When you're in your own wisdom, which everyone has access to, no matter your educational background, your age, your whatever, we all have access to a level of wisdom and a spaciousness of wisdom that's inside of us. So the secrets and tools I share with you today are all designed to tap into that. And there are a number of different ways we can do that. And so take what resonates with you, try it, practice it for a while, tweak it and make it your own. And your presence and your spaciousness ripples out. Okay. And in that spaciousness, you find a sense of abundance that people who don't have that, who don't tap into that, don't have, I promise you. So before we dive in, I'd just love to invite you to connect with me at meetkathywilliams.com. And there you can also download a Create Your Life exercise. I love hearing from people because I get to meet people from all over the world who say, hey, I got this exercise. It's one of my very favorite energy pulls. I also have an energy pull exercise on YouTube that's super fun. I invite you to watch. I noticed it has over 25,000 views, which is super fun and counting. There are people who say, I use that every day. So meetkathywilliams.com. And then, of course, give me your feedback on shows, what you got, what didn't quite land, what I didn't clarify. Sometimes I realize I've been doing this stuff for like 20 years. So sometimes I might explain something and you're like, hey, what? What'd she say? I also have show notes. So the show notes from the last show, which was about empathic capacities, are either up there or coming up soon. And you can find that and previous shows on the radio page. So meetkathywilliams.com/radio will link you to all the places you can find this show replays. The Empath Show, any shows I refer to today will all be on that page as well. All right, or accessible by that page. So I was looking at ways to tap into clarity and spaciousness and calm last night, and sort of reflecting on my favorites, because over the past 20 years I've studied a lot of things, and I have a list of certificates. My teacher says you should put them on your wall, and most of them are in a folder. In all sorts of shamanic things, energy healing things, and everything from neuro-linguistic programming to pranic healing to meditation and yoga therapy trainings, all these different things. And I wanted to give you kind of like the cream that's risen to the top. And before we even go there, I think it requires just a look at the nature of our own stress response. Because when we get stressed, we're conditioned, like our bodies are designed such that they're activated to run, or run from, the wild animal, or hit something, right? Fight off the intruder, or freeze. So the muscles get really activated, and we breathe quickly, and our eyes dilate, all these different things that are the stress response. And this whole show isn't about the stress response, but these things are happening in our bodies when we're stressed. And one of the quickest ways we can diffuse that is by actually going with it and running, or, lifting weights, exercising, kind of getting the body moving. But the other way to simply and quickly return to a state of calm is to tap into our breath. And the breath has that power, and the ancient yogis knew that. They used asana, or yoga postures, to kind of work the muscles, but more than work the muscles, realign any imbalances so we could sit still and calm the mind and, focus inward in meditation. And then the second stage of that, right, first unwind any bodily tension. The next real piece of that is breathing, because breathing takes you from sort of outward orientation to inward orientation. It is a link, right? If you, like, physically, it is the breath is a link from the outer world, outside of you, to inside of you, out of the body to in the body. And it's the fastest, or the only thing you can consciously control in regard to the stress response. You can't control how quickly your heart is beating. Unless you're like a really well-trained yogi, which has been documented, they can do. Most of us cannot do that. I certainly can't. You can't control the blood has left your internal organs and gone to your limbs so you can run or hit something, right? You can't say, oh, by the way, we're done with stress, so blood, you can happily return, and consciously will that to happen. But you can will the breath to slow down, right? You can consciously change your breath and make it slower and make it subtler. And so simply finding your inhale and finding your exhale and making them subtler, breathing in and out through the nose, and almost breathing as though the hair inside your nose wasn't moving at all, right? Can you breathe it that consciously and subtly? That's a great word for it, right? It's very subtle. If that hair is not going to move, it's got to be subtle. And then the idea is that if you want to slow down, calm down, you would make the exhale longer than the inhale. Now, just before we practice this, which we will a little bit, I want to say that some of these techniques that we go into will be more mind-oriented, and then this is more breath-oriented. We'll do breath-oriented things, we'll do mind-oriented things, and then we'll examine and tap into what's beyond the mind, which is really fun. Yep. So inhale shorter, exhale longer. Okay, so inhale can be maybe half the length of exhale, if that's comfortable for you. And there are 4 parts to the breath. If you'll observe it, naturally there are 4 parts. There's the inhale. There's a slight pause before you exhale again. And a slight pause before you inhale. So inhale, pause, exhale, pause is 4 parts. Okay. So if we're looking at calming, now the breath only resides in the lungs, right? It doesn't reside in the belly. However, if we want to calm our system, then it does help to kind of soften the belly and widen the lower ribs as you inhale. And it even sometimes, I think, helps to place your hand down on the lower ribs to just kind of sense them widening and expanding on inhale. And then slowing your exhale so it's maybe two counts longer than your inhale, or even double your inhale, depending on what works for you. The important thing about the breath is it never feels strained. It always feels fluid. So we're inhaling and exhaling really subtly, as though, the hair in the nostrils is not moving, but also sort of allowing the belly to release on inhale and then draw in just gently on exhale. Not firmly, just really softly, so that you can release it in, or release it again on inhale. Just flowing with that. And if that is simple for you, just add a count or 2 to the inhale and a count or 2 to the exhale. We're progressively lengthening the breath. And you'll find if you're really paying attention to the count, then your mind comes inward. It comes to this space of focus. Now, in addition to that, could be some kind of imagery or some kind of energetic work where, let's say, you imagine a column of light above your head. I like to, and if you've worked with me before or heard my show, you may have heard me talk about this. I talked about it a little bit in last week's show. Where there's a column of light above your head, you could say it starts upwards of 300 feet above the head, but you can start it anywhere. And as you come in, as you breathe in, draw light down to the heart or all the way down to the tailbone. And then exhale back up would be one way of doing it. There are many. So inhaling down that column. And because your exhale is slower, you just gradually make your way back up that column. There are many ways to work. There are lots of tantric techniques to work with the light and the breath together. And this is one of the most simple, basic ones. There are ways to clear the aura, bring a lot of clarity and peace. And if you're interested, let me know. I can definitely lead you through some of them. There's some really powerful ones. So as you become acquainted with that, it really does you're bringing the light down the central channel of your body, or kind of the core of your body, and then breathing back up. And it is very internalizing instead of the constant distraction and constant pull of external stimuli. So, because it's the radio, I have to keep talking a little bit, but see if you can practice that wherever you are. Eyes open or closed. If you're driving your car, you can still do this. And, practice as long as you like, as long as that breath doesn't get ruffled or feel strained. And I'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes. Thanks so much for listening to Sexy Mom's Abundant Life on OMTimes Radio.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm so grateful you're here. As a listener, you can pop over to meetkathywilliams.com and get 20% off any item in the shop, including videos, energy pulls, even private sessions, by entering the code SMRadio. Also at meetkathywilliams.com, you can download a free Create Your Life exercise and join me for online classes and Hawaii retreats. And if you're stuck, helping you get unstuck is my specialty. I'd love to work with you one-on-one.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Sexy Mom, everyone. Today we are talking about remaining calm when the world around you is not. And, you know, a moment ago we were talking about my son interrupted. How appropriate, right? Staying calm while the world around you is not. I'm on the radio, love. Thanks, babe. All right, so there we go. Perfect show to do that in. So what do, right? We can get agitated about the interruptions and life showing up how we wish it would not, kids showing up when we wish they would not, and life happens. And part of it is recognizing our resistance to what is, and you know that there's a judgment there when we think this should not be so, right? We're going further than I wanted to. Let's go to this first, and then we're going to go into the space of your own being, which is an amazing space to live in. Such a deep, profound gift. But let's work with our mind a little bit first. So one of the fastest tools I found to shift the mind is just a couple of phrases. And what we do first is we identify what we're feeling. So I'm feeling frustrated or flustered or whatever it is. So you say what you're feeling. I'm feeling X. And I'm feeling that because I choose to. Okay, so that's helping us identify, oh, I have all these choices, and I'm choosing this. So I'm feeling X, and I'm feeling that because I'm choosing it. I'm choosing frustrated because I think that works for me. And then you get to ask yourself, does that work for me? So let's do that now. Find, something you're choosing. Maybe it's your feeling to choose. Maybe you're choosing to feel annoyed at the government or frustrated with the media or whatever it is. I'm choosing, or scared about your finances, whatever it is, I'm choosing this. And I'm choosing this because, I'm feeling this, and I'm feeling this because I'm choosing to. I'm choosing this because I think it works for me. Does it? And it may, your answer might be yes, it does. Or it might be, well, no, actually. And then the question is, what would I rather choose? Right? If I'm choosing agitation, what would I rather choose? Okay. Oh, allowance. Allowance is the space of non-judgment. I was having a conversation with a coaching group this morning, and we were talking about allowance because as you expand your awareness, as you do more meditation or as you do healing techniques and you expand your awareness, what ends up happening is you become more aware of where people are living in dysfunctional ways. Right? Like I was talking with a friend this week and she was all agitated about the media and stuff like that. And I'm like, but your agitation is affecting you, right? And so you see this. You see where people are impacting themselves, or they're choosing things that hurt them. And allowance, the space of non-judgment is, okay, this is what is, right? I don't have to judge my friend or the media or whatever. It can be an allowance in non-judgment of what is, which ultimately gives me serenity. Because when I'm pushing against what is, I have agitation, I have frustration, I have disappointment. When I'm in allowance, the space of everything is just an interesting point of view, taken at a moment in time, then I'm not pushing against life, showing up as it is anymore. So I really love that phrase, and I will put that on at meetkathywilliams.com/radio, and so you can find that. You can print it out, whatever you like, and keep it on a little card and look at it. I'm choosing X. Sorry, I keep saying choosing. I'm feeling X. I'm feeling it because I'm choosing to. Choose to because I think it works for me. Does it? And then what would I rather choose? It just begins to bring a participatory sort of, oh, I get to choose, right? And this is what I've been choosing, and I'm going to reevaluate. Or I'm going to evaluate and see, oh, yeah, it works for me. Sometimes being pissed off works for me, right? Only for a few minutes, but, it's like, yeah, or no. And then we get to choose what works. And then the Access consciousness tool of interesting point of view really is very useful. Interesting point of view. I'm judging this. Interesting point of view is really useful for bringing us back into allowance, where we're not pushing against life. I love this kind of analogy of it, where we're not aligning and agreeing with something, but we're not resisting it either. We're just saying, oh, okay, that's their point of view. I don't have to make it mine. I don't have to push against it. And you see this very much in political parties, right? We're right and they're wrong, as opposed to, well, everyone has their point of view, and what's even underneath that? Oh, you want security and we want security. It's just we want them in two different ways. We think this is the way to achieve it. So here's an analogy that I love. It's like, the song, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, merrily, merrily. Merrily means happily, right? You're happily rowing your boat down the stream. And there are two banks, right? Either side of the river. And one side is, I'm going to resist and react to this. The other side is, I'm going to align and agree with it. So I'm going to say, this side is wrong, bad, and awful. And this side is right, good, perfect, correct. So you're rowing your boat happily, and then you go to one side of the stream, and you collect some rocks from that side, and then you put them in your boat, right? Oh, to be this religion is right, good, perfect, and correct. Or to be vegetarian is right, good, perfect, and correct. Collect some rocks from the right, good, perfect, and correct. Align and agree side. And then you row your boat, but your boat is heavier and harder to row with that point of view. And now you go over here to the other side, and this is the resistance and reaction side. And maybe your mom says something that you resist and react to. Or someone tells you that, oh, it's really hard economic times. And you say, no, I don't believe that. I don't want to buy into that. Well, guess what? You just resisted and reacted. You didn't say, oh, they have that point of view. I don't have to buy it as mine. You know, some people have that point of view, and it's okay that they do. So now you're making them wrong. So you've just collected some rocks. The resistance and reaction rocks now are in your boat, and you're rowing, and it's heavier, harder to row, right? So every time we make one point of view the right point of view and another point of view the wrong point of view, there's a right way of doing something and a wrong way of it. We've just made our boat heavier and harder to row. Okay, we're not rowing as merrily, right? That's why kids can be so carefree, because they don't have so much right and wrong in their universe until they do. Okay? Trying to get life right is a huge limitation for us. And so why is this a part of our conversation? Because it's hard to be calm when we're pushing against people's points of view, or when we're making the world is turning to shit point of view right. Okay? It's hard to be calm when we're making that the right point of view, or when we're making that true for us. Okay? So if we use this tool, and I'd like you to choose something that you have a point of view about. Could be your family, could be, you know, how hard parenting is at this time, or how hard the world is at this time. Whatever it is, we're just going to explore every thought you have about it for the next few minutes, just by saying interesting point of view for each thought, or interesting thought. I almost like that better in a way, because you're recognizing it's just a thought. So interesting thought. Start to think about it. Start to tap into your story about it. Interesting point of view. Interesting. Interesting point of view. It should be different. Interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. The world would be better if it were different. Interesting point of view. Interesting. Interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. Interesting point of view, you're right. Interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. And then identify any tensions in your body. You could even say interesting sensation. Interesting. Interesting sensation. We're just being with each of these without judgment. Interesting point of view. Interesting. Think all the thoughts, go to run through your story about this. Interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. Interesting. Interesting. Interesting, it's hard. Interesting. Interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. Just be with it. Interesting point of view. Interesting point of view. Interesting. 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 And now just think about that topic. Okay. And notice any spaciousness that is opened up around it. Any differences. And we have so many points of view about various things. You know, things that we desire, how hard it will be to get them, what we've tried for a long time, what life will be like, that it will be better once we have them. You know, so there are many, many ways of using this exercise. And I have a little meditation about interesting point of view with your desires on my website in the shop. And this, for me, this exercise never fails to create space around any given topic. I've had couples who are frustrated with each other do interesting point of view about the other person and about their thoughts about the other person. And, oh, interesting point of view. They have their point of view about my point of view. Right? And I'm just dancing with the interesting point of view so that we can come to neutral. Right? Because and we're going to talk about this more in the third part of the show, being neutral, it brings so much freedom. The happiness you think will be in whatever you're looking for, the money, the partner, whatever, actually comes from that freedom. So we're going to talk about that in the third part of the show. Thanks for sticking around, everybody. See you in just a few minutes. I'm so grateful you're listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hey everyone. Thanks for listening to Sexy Mom Abundant Life. I'm so grateful you're here. As a listener, you can pop over to meetkathywilliams.com and get 20% off any item in the shop, including videos, energy pulls, even private sessions, by entering the code SMRadio. Also at meetkathywilliams.com, you can download a free Create Your Life exercise and join me for online classes and Hawaii retreats. And if you're stuck, helping you get unstuck is my specialty. I'd love to work with you one-on-one.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
I'm on the radio. Welcome back to Sexy Mom Abundant Life, everyone. This is Kathy Williams, and today we are talking about remaining calm, staying calm when the world around you is not. And you know what? When we're able to do this, what happens is even when kids are calling or life is all over the place, and we are not dependent on external circumstances to remain happy inside. And I was talking with a coaching group this morning, and before we go in there, I want to invite you to 2 classes. I was like, oh man, I didn't mention them. So hold that thought. They're called Living Drama Free. And one is about health, because I know there's lots of craziness, crazy thoughts, crazy fears, just fears, right, around health right now, and also about money. So the second one is about money. And those are donation-based classes. You can find those at meetkathywilliams.com/upcoming. And just join me. Even if you want to donate like $5, you can come play with us and get some facilitation. Because, you know, I was talking with a class this morning about, you know, the state of the mind and how our minds are constantly looking for things outside of us to change before we can be happy, right? However, if we're living like that, dependent on something external to change in order for us to be happy, our happiness becomes very fleeting, right? Because once that thing changes, you know, in a way that we don't like, then we're unhappy again. We need something external to us to be happy. Let's say, oh, when I get the relationship, I'm going to be happy, right? So you get the relationship and you're in it, and then maybe the person has habits that you end up hating, and then soon that relationship that you decided you would be happy with is the thing you want to get out of, and they, oh, I'll be happy once I get out of this, right? How often has that happened? With a relationship, with a job, with a whatever. And so if we can get beyond that mind that needs life to be different in order for us to be happy, then we can tap into some greater lasting happiness. Okay, so interesting point of view, which we did in the last segment of the show, can be a really useful tool for sort of catapulting us out of that needy mind. Yet I want to tap you into some way that kind of transcends the mind. And it's almost like minding the gap. So we talked about a gap between inhale and exhale, right? You inhale, there's a little pause, and then you exhale, and then there's a little gap, right? We can sort of settle ourselves or our mind into the stillness, into the spaciousness of that gap. And the more you practice that, the easier it becomes, but also the more sort of like transcendent it becomes. Like it's a relief, it's a vacation from the constant hecticness of your head. Another way of doing this, which I learned from Bentino Massaro, was to exhale. So you exhale as though you're just giving life your thoughts. Whatever thoughts have been in my head, you're exhaling. And then choose to remain thought-free for several seconds after that. Like 3 to 5 seconds. Could be longer, right? So just with your next exhale, just give life all those thoughts. And then remain in that space without thought. And it allows you to start to tap into who you are beyond the I that has this story, this person who needs to figure it out. You realize there's a settled spaciousness that's available in this moment. And it's always available. And I remember when I first started working with a yoga teacher, fabulous teacher, Robert Bustani, wonderful, little videos on YouTube now. He said, life has a safety net. And I was probably 19, but it's one of those things that has always struck me. And when I soften into that gap, exhale, releasing all thought, entering the space of thoughtlessness, it's almost like a safety net of support that you can just settle into. If you're doing the breathing techniques that we did early on in the show, you can work with the pauses too, slightly lengthening the pauses and lengthening the pauses, especially that pause after exhale. Now, for some people, if you've had trauma, like smothering or drowning, near drowning, it can bring that up, as you bring up that memory. But the important thing is that, if you keep going, you will go through that, release it. But the important thing is whenever you do the pauses, that they're not held, they're not forced, you soften into the pause. It's a relaxation into that pause. And if you practice it enough, and usually a teacher is recommended, and I'm happy to refer you to people if you just reach out to me. What happens is you begin to settle into that pause more and more and more, and it's almost like there's no desire to take the next breath because you're just in the spaciousness of being. Okay, so it's a practice. It's not going to come usually overnight. Another technique, right? There's so many different ways of working with this, finding that I that is beyond the small self, beyond the person with the story, is to work with questions. Who is the I that's sad? And what's beyond that? Right? So whatever you're experiencing, whatever sort of agitation or contraction you're experiencing, who is the I that has that? And what's beyond that? Or another way of asking that would be, who's the I that's producing that? And in a way, it invites us to disassociate from any kind of contraction or contractive emotion, yet not in a negative way. In a way that actually allows us to tap into the spaciousness of being the I without the story. The I without the story is more like a witnessing presence. It's not agitated. It's available. And it's you. In the words of, yoga, it's Sat Chit Ananda, which is pure consciousness whose nature is bliss, whose nature is joy, and not that joy you get from, eating ice cream or a rich flourless chocolate cake, or even the joy you get from a good swim. It's like beyond that. It's permanent, because all these other things are transient, right? The ice cream happiness is transient. I just worked out and I'm really happy is transient. I just got a job and I'm thrilled with it. Transient. All of those pass. They're like the clouds that pass across the sky. They can be beautiful, pretty clouds, right? They pass. But you're like the blue sky. It's unaffected by the clouds, whether the clouds are pretty or thundery, scary. The weather is transitory, and you're the sky. And your nature is pure consciousness with the quality of bliss. And one of the things we talked about in my coaching group this morning in regard to this is, would you allow yourself to be happy regardless of what others are choosing? Because a lot of times we won't allow ourselves to choose the calm because others would judge us. Or because, if they're agitated, we should be agitated too. Yet if you're the calm, you can be an anchor for people as well. You don't have to be blown about. When we're in the agitation, much harder to find solution than when we just soften and stop resisting. And in that spaciousness, you can settle into your true nature, which is bliss, which is unagitated. And so if all the external things, the thoughts, feelings, emotions, all the poles are transient, they're not you. You are what remains. So another yogic technique is to say, I'm not this. I'm not this. So like, if I have a contraction in my throat, I'm not that. If I have, depressed thoughts, I'm not that. If I have sadness, if I have whatever, stress, I'm not that. Because you aren't. You're pure consciousness, whose nature is bliss. Okay. If you aren't experiencing that, come play with me on the upcoming calls, drama-free. And you can find those at meetkathywilliams.com/upcoming. That's where all the upcoming stuff is. And they're donation classes. So one has to do with drama-free in regard to health and body and well-being. And the other has to do with drama-free in regard to money and finances. So we don't have to be blown about by the winds of all the people around us, the media, all the different things. We can tap into our center. And from there, find solutions that really work for us. So right now, before we leave, before we close, just place a hand on yourself, on your belly, on your chest, wherever, and just recognize I'm here right now because I am here. Because the mind loves to get ahead, right? I'm here. Thanks for being here. And see you next week, next Thursday, live or anytime on io.fm, meetkathywilliams.com/radio, or Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. YouTube's one of my favorite places to be. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Stay calm.